Hello, folks. I'd like to welcome you back to the channel. My name is Eric, and I'm a kidney warrior. Here on this channel, we talk about kidney transplant, kidney dialysis, kidney restoration. We talk about the tips and the tricks and the tools that it's going to take for you to accomplish your kidney goals. We talk about the team that you need to build in order to accomplish your kidney goals. We also talk about the tools you're going to need in order to accomplish your kidney related goals. So this video, I want it to be a kidney transplant case study. You may see already on your screen that I'm in one of my Facebook groups called Chronic Kidney Disease Support. And in these type of videos, I like to go in my groups and find the posts that are about kidney transplant. Now, oftentimes you'll see kidney transplant, it'll be something hopeful. It'll be, oh, I'm celebrating my third or fourth kidney anniversary, my kidneyversary. It'll be, I'm going to get a kidney transplant. But sometimes you're going to see the other side of that, which is why these are case studies. You're going to see the other side of that, which is, oh, my kidney didn't work. It didn't wake up. It didn't last long for me. Now, that's my own story. Not only am I a kidney patient, I'm a dialysis patient, I'm a transplant patient. So I've experienced pretty much everything there is to experience when it comes to kidney health and kidney disease. And so I wanted this particular video to be, a triumphant one about a kidney transplant case study that is actually favorable. Now, as of the recording of this video, I don't know how this person's transplant is going to turn out, because while I'm recording this in December of 2023, their transplant isn't until January of 2024. And so I don't know, but we're going to do the case study. We're going to deep dive. We're going to talk about what it takes in order to get a transplant. We're going to talk about what's needed to prepare, and we're going to talk about kind of the essential components, those things I talked about: tools, techniques, team. Those are so important. All those three components coming together in order to make sure that you're going to have a successful, or at least have the ingredients for a successful transplant. And so let's dive into this post, okay? And so this person's name is Caitlin. And again, this is from my chronic kidney disease support group. And it says, I got the call. 2 exclamation points. Transplant in January. 3 exclamation points. What do I need to know to prepare? Well, that's a layered question, Caitlin. That would, if I would have speak with Caitlin, if I were to respond to this post, I would kind of try to mirror what I experienced, right? I had such a favorable experience that everything went well. Even the parts where I necessarily didn't like, they still went well. And so if I were to tell Caitlin something, I would say, look, Caitlin, you got to start with your team, right? Who's going to be helping you leading up to the transplant? Who's going to be helping you the day of the transplant, and who's going to be helping you after the transplant? Your team is so important. I had some crucial members of my team, starting with my Uncle Paul and starting with other friends and family that just came through for me. I didn't necessarily ask for it, but I did ask for it because that's what family and that's what friends are for. They step up in those times of need. And so my Uncle Paul was a critical member of my team, but I consider my team to be really everybody who wanted to see me win in that moment, right? So this is my nurses, my techs, my doctors, my dietitians, my social workers, my spouse, my significant other, like anybody that wants to see you win, really anybody that's willing to give you a kind word, they want to see you win. And so that's where I would start. I would start with the team. What do I need to know to prepare? You need to know that your team is in place. What is it going to be like? What is your game plan day of? Day of transplant, what time are you supposed to be there? Do you have your bag ready? Because you need to prepare to stay for a few days. I was there for 5 days. So that's what I would say. Prepare for a week. Basically, have some undies, some socks. You're not going to be wearing a lot of regular clothes. You'll be wearing a lot of nightgowns. Be prepared to do some walking. You're going to have a physical therapist come in, an occupational therapist, because they want to make sure you're good when it's time to go home. You're going to be walking around the hospital. You're going to be seeing other nurses, other patients. So your team, that's so important. Even if that means, okay, you may have a spouse or a significant other who's going to take some time off of work, or you may have a team of people that are going to kind of shift it, so to speak. Oh, I get the day shift, you get the night shift, kind of thing. So kind of get that figured out. And that's kind of leading up to, right? And what's that going to look like day of? Is it going to be a daytime surgery? Is it going to be a midday? Is it going to be a nighttime? That's going to affect, and that's going to dictate what your team is capable of doing, right? And so I remember in my situation, I got up there, and it was like a hurry up and wait situation where, they wanted me up there, but they wanted me to wait, and I figured that was because they were preparing the kidney, right? So the kidney I received was a cadaver kidney from a dead person that had suffered cardiac arrest or something like that, and I guess there's a protocol in order to make that kidney viable. There's a lot of testing and retesting and x-rays and blood work. They just want to make sure you're good to go. And so that's what you do in order to prepare. Just be ready, get your mind right, because the type of freedom, I don't know what Caitlin experiences now. Maybe she's, nearing dialysis, maybe she's on dialysis, I don't know. But if she's on dialysis, what I will say is that a transplant, although it's not considered a cure, it's going to be a time freedom thing, right? It's going to be a time freedom thing that's amazing. It's going to make you feel like, man, I have all this time. Maybe I have some other pursuits. Maybe I have a career. Maybe I have a business. Maybe I have a hobby that I want to ramp up the time on because I have such time. I have a significantly more, significantly, I don't even know how to say that, but you got more time, and so that's what I experienced when I got my first transplant. I had so much more time, right? I was able to pursue things I wanted to pursue. The only thing I really missed about the dialysis experience was the fact that I missed, my patients, co-patients, as I like to call them. I miss my nurses, my techs, people that you get to know. You get to know their families, you get to know their lifestyle, you get to know about them because you spend so much time with them. And so I would say get your team in order, the before, the during, and the after. I would follow that up by saying, figure out what I like to call your techniques, your tips and your tricks, right? So how are you gonna be as a transplant recipient? You may know how you are as a person with kidney disease, kidney failure. You may know how you are as a dialysis patient, but how will you be as a transplant patient, right? So as a transplant patient, you're gonna have this bevy of meds to take, new meds you've never taken before. You're going to have a medication regimen that you've never really had to adhere to before. And you're going to have follow-up appointments that you haven't experienced before because, again, this is transplant. So what type of tips and tricks, and when I say tips and tricks, I mean legit, but it starts with maybe logistics. What do your logistics look like day to day? What are you going to do, when they want you to see you multiple times a week for the next 6 weeks following transplant? How does that look for your team? What route are you going to take? What cars are you going to take? Or do you live close enough to the transplant hospital that you can travel there every day? I lived close enough to my transplant hospital that I could travel there every day, and it wasn't really an inconvenience, right? It was about, even in traffic, it was about an hour away, maybe hour 15, right? So which wasn't bad at all. And so you're gonna have to do that for about 6 weeks following the transplant. And so that's something you want to kind of keep in mind. What are your tips and your tricks and your logistics and your strategies that you're going to implement in order to make that come to fruition for you? Because the transplant is just really like first steps, right? It's first steps of getting a transplant. Getting the transplant is the first step of getting a transplant. The follow up, the maintenance of the kidney, making sure your numbers are okay, getting your blood work done, taking your meds at the required time. A lot of that stuff, I mean, it's almost like you're trading one job for another job, right? And so that's what you want to kind of think about, how are you going to be, and the next thing is like your tools. Now, tools, I'm a big tools guy. Now, when you think of the word tools, you may be thinking about a hammer or a wrench, but everything that helps you do a thing is a tool, right? Now, you can walk to everywhere you ever go. And what helps you cut down the time significantly is a mode of transportation. So, tools, whether it's a skateboard, roller skate, a bike, a scooter, a car, a truck, an airplane, that's one of your major tools. Do you have that figured out? Do you have your transportation figured out? That's a primary tool. Another tool is just kind of having your house set up in a way that's going to be conducive to aftercare. And so once you're done with your transplant surgery, you're not gonna be permitted to lift a whole lot, right? So you need to prepare for that. You're not going to be, and I think they say 5 pounds kind of for everybody across the board. I think that really depends on your current physical health, your ability to lift anyway. Now, if you're, of an advanced age, perhaps you want to, adhere to that 5 pounds. Maybe you want to, your body enough to know what you can do. But another tool is that you want to have your home set up in a certain kind of way. Will you have a situation where your spouse or significant other or another member of your team will be available to assist you? Perhaps if you need assisting, toileting or bathing or brushing your teeth or cooking your food, kind of the basic things, right? Do you need help with that? Or do you need tools? Do you need tools kind of around the house? I found that a great tool for me, even when I'm not, necessarily post surgery or post dialysis, is that I have one of those grabbers. I'm a pretty tall guy, 6'3", but one of those grabbers comes in handy when I need it for various areas around the house. Some stuff I put up high, stuff that I don't use that often, or stuff that I may not necessarily need to put my hands on all the time. I have one of those grabbers. You may need that as post-op, just to kind of minimize stretching, minimize putting yourself in a predicament where you're stretching all the time, right? And so that's kind of what I want. Another tool would be, just a working telephone, the ability to keep your phone charged or keep your phone handy, because you may need to call someone. You're gonna need to reach out to the outside world. And so again, that's another tool. Another tool would be that go bag, having that go bag ready. Even though your transplant is in, January, you may, have a go bag. Something may change, so you need that go bag and have that ready to go. And so that's what I would say. Those are the what do you need to prepare? What do you need to know? Those are the things. Get your team right. Get your techniques and your strengths right, get your tools right, get all that stuff right. Get all that stuff, and even if you wanted to, perhaps I know I'm shooting this in the holiday season, but even if you wanted to do a dry run, right, and say, oh, I'm gonna go up there and I'm gonna, drive the route, just add rush hour, or drive the route at various times just to see how it goes, right? You may want to do that. You may want to just kind of go over things. How's it going to look day of? Are you in a good enough headspace to be ready for transplant? Is your team in a good headspace? Are they ready? And so those are things to keep in mind. I wanted to wrap this video up. If you found value, share it, like it, subscribe. Again, my name is Eric. Kidney Story is the channel. I like this kind of video. I like this kind of video because it allows me to do a deep dive. It allows me to reminisce. It allows me to really to reevaluate some things that I may have overlooked my first time around transplant. It's going to give me an opportunity to deep dive in some of these transplant cases. Again, I won't know a lot of these people, but a lot of the same components, a lot of similarities will often exist, because that's just kind of how it is when it comes to transplant, right? And so I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Again, my name is Eric. I'm a kidney warrior, kidney dialysis warrior, kidney transplant warrior. I appreciate you guys stopping by, and I'm going to see you guys on the next video, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.